Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 239 of the SoxProspects.com podcast, the web's number one source for information on the Boston Red Sox from top to bottom, from Fort Myers to Worcester, across the Pike to Fenway, and all stops in between. Thank you for listening. My name is Chris Hatfield. I am the executive editor of Sox Prospects, joined as always by our director of scouting, who unfortunately wiped out hard in the short track speed skating final this afternoon before we're coming in to record the podcast. Ian Kundle. Ian, that was a nasty fall you had coming around the bend, trying to make an inside move in the short track final, but you're not watching the Olympics at all?
No,
you do
not
anything?
at all. I don't watch the Olympics. No, I completely didn't realize had no idea they were on until like a few days ago.
Okay, fair enough.
Not my cup of tea.
I was all excited to ask, like, if you were a Winter Olympian, what sport would you do? Like, because to me, like, the Winter Olympics, they're all the ones where you can like die.
I mean, I'm the person who will go to a ski mountain and not go skiing. So yeah, I mean, I'm not a Winter Olympics person. So
okay. No, but it's like, I can't think of any event in the Winter Olympics that you can't possibly just severely injure yourself. Whereas like in the Summer Olympics, like, you're not going to injure yourself playing like handball. I mean, I guess like,
I don't know.
Like,
I played handball. Handball can get a little violent.
It can, but it's like they all either involve skates or like hurtling down hills.
Well, let's see. I don't skate.
Yeah, I don't either. Actually,
I don't ski.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm pretty much eliminated.
I guess curling. You can't die in curling. So maybe.
Curling's fun. I've actually been curling before. So yeah, it's actually I went on a bachelor party. It was a great time.
That's a very good bachelor party event, actually.
Yeah.
That's pretty
so I would say I would be a curler because
that's a good answer. Good answer.
I also pride myself on my cleaning ability. So I think that I would be pretty good at curling because it's basically the same movement as like sweeping the floor. So
I don't believe you.
My apartment is immaculate at all times.
I mean, it does look it in the background. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I can't see your floor at all, but I'll take your word for it.
Spotless floor.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us for this episode. We're recording this on Saturday, February the 12th, day whatever of the lockout. We'll have an update on that.
The lockout that will never end.
It's probably never.
I mean, it'll end eventually, but
I mean, it's going to be a while, folks.
Yeah.
Some minor transactions have happened. Yes, during the lockout, transactions have happened, especially when you're running.
It's what we talked. But it's also what we talked about last episode. Right. Those moves have started. Like, exactly. We'll get into that a little later.
Some top 100 lists have come out in organizational talent rankings. And of course, as always, your emails. Send your emails to podcast@soxprospects.com because we want to talk about what you want to hear about. We got a bunch for this episode. So thank you all for sending those in. In addition, if you want to support the show, you can do that two ways. First, rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or YouTube, wherever it is that you're listening. Throw a little thumbs up, whatever it is. 5-star rating, leave a comment. We always appreciate it. I think our last comment is several months old. So if you can do that, the algorithm likes that on Apple Podcasts. So if you could do that, we would appreciate it. In addition, you can support us on patreon.com/SoxProspects. Pledge a certain amount per episode, get some neat perks, at game, Patreon game updates, rankings, content exclusive to Patreon supporters. Lots of neat stuff on there. So again, patreon.com/SoxProspects. And to all of you who are already supporting us on there, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Without further ado, Ian, let's get to the bad news first. The lockout is in no sign of ending. There's no signs that we're ending anytime soon. It seems.
So you're telling me the people who told you that owning a baseball team was a bad investment, didn't have a good negotiating session today?
Yeah, pretty much. It's kind of interesting. It seems like, I mean, big picture wise, it's unspoken, but basically acknowledged that obviously players are not going to report on team time because like pitchers and catchers is in less than a week, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, we're at the back months ago I said that if we don't have movement by mid-February, that's when you can start getting worried about the start of the season. And we're at that point and there's been no movement. So
yeah, there's been no acknowledgement yet. But what I'm reading on Twitter is that they're not going to acknowledge anything until they start losing spring training games,
which won't be till March.
Makes sense,
right? I think it's like, or 8. It's like the last.
It's March,
February, whatever. Yeah.
It might. Yeah. I mean, I think it might be early March.
I feel like the Red Sox play like college teams like the end of February usually, but yeah, it'll be like end of February, beginning of March.
Yeah, it's something like that. So we're not going to hear anything until then. But that said, based on how far apart the sides are, I would be very surprised if opening day is when it's supposed to be. I don't know about you.
I would be stunned at this point. Yeah,
I
would
don't think there's any
say
chance.
I would say it's like 90-10. It's delayed.
And do you want to talk about why? Because this is really one of the big ticket items that we were just talking before the show.
Yeah,
and you made the great point that this is the one thing that's not getting mentioned in the reporting. And it's crucial to understand about this negotiating process. And it also sucks, but it's crucial to understand.
Yeah. And let's put the caveat out that like, I largely agree with the players on the majority of these issues. But at the end of the day, the reason the owners, and we'll talk about it in a little bit, why their offers are like $2 million here, $5 million there, is players don't have anything to offer. They have no leverage other than games. Other than their playing ability. That's the only real leverage the players have. Yes, they have the expanded playoffs, but
which is why it's a foregone conclusion.
Yes, which is why it's going to happen. But the owners know that, and they'll get that eventually. The only thing that the players have to hold over the owners is our talent. And I don't think we'll see the owners make any movement at all until games start getting missed. And that's where it gets into a game of chicken of the owners being like, okay, well, this is your careers and you're running out. Like, you're going to miss your time. You're missing paychecks too. So it's going to get ugly. It's going to get only going to get uglier. And unfortunately, I think the players, just based on, the social media commentary we're seeing about these offers, I think the players are going to dig in. I don't think they're going to like cave.
Which sucks, but I get it.
Yeah, and I don't blame them. Like, some of the stuff the MLB is doing is ludicrous. Like some of the proposals are,
and we'll get laughable.
Into the details. Like it just makes I feel like they just treat the general public like we're all morons, and they're like, look at this great proposal we made, and it's like, no, it's not a good proposal, and like this is why. Like, I just feel like both, and I do think there's obviously like some of the stuff the players want was never going to happen and is not realistic either. But I just think that anybody who says that either party is like really focused on what's best for the game as a whole, I think it's not true. I think both parties have agendas, which they should. I mean, that's obviously their right. They're representing each side in the debate. And I just worry that the discourse surrounding this and the animosity that's going to build up, especially if it goes into the regular season, is going to irreparably harm baseball long term. And I think that's what I'm most worried about right now. Is like, if this gets into like April and we are not no end in sight, and then it gets into May, like baseball already is struggling as a sport at times to generate, to attract new fans and bring in, connect with younger generations and stuff. And stuff like this is just not the way to do it. Like, the last thing the younger generations are like, the 20 somethings who like baseball, but, maybe go to a game or two a summer and are trying to get more into it, want to hear is a labor negotiation. There's enough like bad press about stuff like this in the private sector and other industries. The last thing you want to do is hear about it in sports. And like, I'm just very worried about the long-term ramifications if this extends into the regular season.
Well, and as we've talked about on here, and as we've said, MLB's competition is not just the NFL, the NBA. MLB's competition is Fortnite.
Yeah,
MLB's competition.
It's Twitch. It's YouTube. It's all of the streaming platforms. Yeah.
MLB's competition is, America's Got Talent. MLB's competition is Netflix. Mm-hmm. It's anything that is out there.
It's any streaming platform where you can consume content. Or any platform where you can consume content.
The MCU is MLB's competition.
Yeah, and MLB is already struggling to gain a foothold, and it's like for me, it's always been like, for MLB, it's like one step forward, two steps backward. Like, they made a really good decision recently where they expanded their MLB The Show video game onto all platforms, including like the Nintendo Switch or something, which I guess is massive. I had no idea. I was reading a press release.
I didn't realize they weren't on there. That's interesting.
It wasn't, and it's like there's something like hundreds of millions of those units around.
Yeah.
And and that's like a generally skews younger. And that's a great move on their part.
And
like,
skews towards families, because I know more families who have the Switch. The Xbox is the 18 to 40 demo.
Yeah, Xbox and PlayStation is like that. Yeah. But like the getting down to the Switch is like you're trying to appeal. That's a really good move on their part. Mm-hmm. And like that's a good thing. And then you flip it around and it's like, oh great, these new baseball video games coming out and so many people are going to be playing it, and they're going to get to watch their favorite players while they're playing. Oh wait, maybe they won't be watching.
And I mean, the other thing to remember too that I thought of while you were saying all that, Ian, is that none of the owners got rich from baseball.
Nope. They all are independently wealthy.
They all got rich doing other stuff. So the problem is you've got the players back themselves to some degree, no question, into a corner by falling asleep at the wheel the last 2 or so labor negotiations.
And this is the problem, is that the owners have gotten used to destroying the players in these negotiations, and the players are trying to undo. They're not like they're trying to undo the harm that they had, what they gave up in the last 2 cycles, let alone get gains. And like the owners are just like, why would we do that? Why would we, why would we make these changes when it's working out great for us?
And look, because here's the thing. And part of this is, we've talked about some of this before, but not in this context of this lockout. As folks know, my day job, I'm a lawyer. So I've been involved in, settlement negotiations and things like that. When you have 2 sides that start this far apart, it's almost, it makes it so much harder to find common ground, because you can't do that without completely caving.
Well, that's
and
the thing.
The only thing, the only thing that makes people cave like that is me, the lawyer, in the sense that the only thing that makes people come together is they realize how much money they're going to pay me to litigate the case. Right? Like that's why you get settlements.
And that's also why the owners did the mediator shtick from the last week, which was,
well, no, that was just PR. That was,
oh no, that's what I mean. But I'm saying it was just PR, was just trying to say, like, we're making our best effort.
Yeah.
But
and that's what the problem is, when you get sides that are dug in like this, each side, particularly on the owner side, because you've got, keep in mind, the owners are not necessarily of a united mind.
Oh, they 100% aren't. You can tell, because there's certain owners we're not hearing anything from, whereas others, aka the small market team owners, usually are the ones on the front lines, like negotiating, and you hear the most from. Like, and here's the thing, is that all it takes is one squeaky wheel on the other side who wants to put out a press release, who wants to get the word out that, hey, we're the good guys here, to try and bury the players. Because again, that's another way they know that the bargaining leverage comes from sitting out games. And the reason you put the PR, the reason you run the PR campaign is because when games are missed, it looks like it's the player's fault. Hello, it's a lockout. The owners are locking the players out. All they need to do is say, look, we need to get an agreement done. Let's not lose any games. Let's put the old CBA back and just play on that for another year. Let's get something done on the side, but let's play games. That's all the owners have to do. And it'd get done. And I think that would happen. But the thing is, though, that, and this is the problem the players are going to run into, is like, I'm just like picking a random tweet, because I was looking at this earlier. I was interested to see. So Evan Drellick of The Athletic is doing a great job covering the negotiations. Clearly has really good sources.
And one more is Travis Shawchuk of The Score. Those are the 2 guys I think are doing the best job right now.
And June Lee, I think, too, from ESPN has been, but so I was like curious to see what the general Twitter sentiment is about the negotiations. And there are a lot of them which are blaming the players in the responses. And it's like, this is now before games are being missed.
Yep.
And that's the thing, is that at the end of the day, MLB's PR campaign is just so much bigger and more united than the players one is. And, there's only so many people who are seeing the players' tweets explaining their point of view on things. Those aren't getting like emphasized or kind of amplified the way that, an MLB.com article highlighting the negotiations today is. Do you know what I mean?
Well, it's not a negotiation. I mean, let's keep in mind. So they met today for less than an hour. That's not a negotiation. That's listening to MLB's proposal. But that's not me correcting you.
Yeah, no, you're right.
That's me like making clear.
My point is, though, that MLB has like an entire article dedicated to what they did, and it's written. It more or less reads like Rob Manfred's lawyers wrote it.
Yeah.
And the players don't have anything like that. Like, the players don't have someone who's publicly going out and defending them like that on a major platform like MLB.com or something. I mean they just don't. Like, if you go on the front page of ESPN right now, how many articles do you think are about the players and the thing? Do you know?
Probably none, because it's probably all about, isn't there a UFC fight tonight?
It's not on the front page of ESPN.com. They met today and it's not being covered at all. There's nothing about the lockout.
And they have Jeff Passan, who also is doing a great job. We should mention Jeff Passan.
Okay. Oh, actually, I found it. Finally found it. It's on the sidebar. It's underneath a Kevin Durant article, an article about the Raiders hiring the Patriots wide receivers coach.
Yep.
an article about beer in a golf tournament. An article about
John. The guy hit a hole
it was actually awesome. But
that was funny as hell.
And behind an article about John Collins missing a game. Like,
wait, that's John Collins. Should I know who that is?
He's a basketball player on the Hawks.
Okay.
That's what we're looking at. That's like ESPN is thinking those are bigger stories than the MLB lockout. Like,
that's a problem. That's a problem.
This is the problem the players have, is they don't have any way to get there out. A lot of the players are doing a great job tweeting, like the player reps and everything. But like those guys have a lot of them they have 30,000 followers. And the people who are retweeting it are people who like you and I follow, but like the common and a lot of our listeners are going to follow, but like common baseball fan in Iowa who watches the Cubs. It's not, well, I guess they can't watch the Cubs in Iowa because of the blackout rules, but
right.
Okay, let's pick like some person in Seattle. Like they're not going to be following Alex Wood on Twitter and know what's going on.
No.
And so all they're going to go is they're going to go on MLB.com. They're going to read the article talking about how the players refuse to budge. Well, MLB is making this magical concession, and like, it's just going to be, it's not good. And I was hopeful that maybe today after Manfred's press conference, there would be some sort of movement.
Well, let's explain what you're talking about. Rob Manfred yesterday or the day before? I think it was Thursday.
I thought it was Thursday.
Thursday had a press conference that made it seem like the owners were preparing to make big concessions in the negotiation / bargaining session / whatever the hell you want to call it.
Because he did use things like, he said it would be what do you call it? A catastrophe, I believe, if they missed
catastrophe
games.
To miss games, So it's like, maybe they'll move. Going quickly item by item, Ian. The big ticket item, in which there's many subparts, is finances, economics.
Mm-hmm.
The economics of the game don't work.
No.
So there's a number of areas where this is being negotiated. One is minimum salary for pre-arbitration players. Pre-arbitration is players in the first through third years of their of service time, fewer than 3 years of service time. So the today's proposal from MLB, it had an option of two systems. In the first, the minimum salary in 2022 would go up to $630,000, which I think it's like $575 right now. So that's not even that big of a freaking bump. Under this system, the minimum salary would not be capped, so teams could give discretionary raises. In other words, the current system. So yeah, okay, it's a $59,000 increase from 2021 to 22. Okay. So that's not horrible. It's something to work with. The other proposal would be a tiered scale in which players with less than 1 year of service time would have, and this is a hard capped salary, like the salary would be $615,000. More than 1 year, you get $650K. More than 2 years, you get $725K. But that's like a hard capped salary. Like that's the salary for those players. If you want to give Mookie Betts $1 million, like you can't give Mookie Betts $1 million discretionary. Like that's hot garbage. I'm sorry. Like that's neither of those is a great proposal. So the players' last proposal that I have here, I don't know if it's the last one, but at one point they wanted to set the minimum at $775K and it would rise to $875K by the end of the agreement. And so they're pretty far apart.
Yeah. And I think one thing that's important to note here, and we'll get onto it, especially when we get into some of the other financial figures, is like the sides are really far apart, but it's like both sides, like especially the players, know they have to ask for these things. They know they're not going to get them. Like
on some of them, I disagree. I don't know that I agree on this. I think they know they're probably going to wind up in the middle somewhere.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a case by case basis, but my point was just like that. Like there are certain things which is just like the players' number is just never going to happen. It's not realistic at all. Like they're not going to get that bump. What is it? It's one of them. They want to bump it from like 15 million to 100 million. Like that's never going to happen.
So, but that's not a bump. So that brings us the next thing I had on my list is there's going to be, because the sides basically have numbers and they're just kind of, it seems like there will be at least a pool of money to
the pre-arb money.
Huh?
The pre-arb pool,
right? To be given to pre-arbitration players based on performance. And this was for, if you heard, it would, at one point it would have been based on either Fangraphs or Baseball Reference WAR,
which is wild.
which both of them will. But here's the thing: is that both sites have said like, no, please don't use our statistics.
I mean, I don't blame them, because I would wonder if they could be held liable if like for something, or someone.
No, I don't think that there's a legal thing.
Not liability, but could someone like sue them for like being like, you're screwing our war?
But
yeah, I don't know.
I mean, but that's literally liability. But
okay,
no,
sorry, Mr. Lawyer.
No. I'm just saying no, but I'm saying like that's what liability would be, like legal liability. I think they're just like, they just don't want to get involved in that. You know, it's like we're going to talk about another proposal later that would involve finishing an awards voting. Like, if I'm an awards voter, I don't want my vote to like determine whether a team gets a draft pick or two.
Well, it's like that actually happens in the NBA right now. All NBA is voted on by the players, or sorry, by the media. And all NBA, if you make all NBA, you can get like a higher tier of max contract extension than you can if you're not an all NBA. So like, they literally, like, the media literally does decide players' salaries in that regard.
Yeah, so there's that. But the players number, the most recent one is I think 105 million in this pool, and the owners in this proposal today went up to 15 million, which is a huge difference. I have to admit, I don't get the effect of this number. Like, I don't know how many players we're talking about. I don't know how it would be distributed. That really hasn't been reported.
Well, that's the thing, because this is starting from zero, because this wasn't a thing under the old CBA, so we don't know how it would be implemented, or So
right, and
it's hard to say which number is more accurate.
And the thing that this is fixing is the fact that like a star player in his first 3 years is making like
2 million or whatever, 2.1 million right now. Because isn't it like
in the first 3 years, you're like total, you're making 1.5, 1.6.
I thought it was like 600 or something.
It's like 575. Okay. 1.8.
Yeah.
Call it 1.8, whatever.
It's like, I thought it was around 2. Yeah.
That's after 3 years compared to like,
and that's also before.
What did the Red Sox pay Marwin Gonzalez this year? Did they pay Danny Santana more than $1 million?
Right. And that's also before taxes, et cetera. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's garbage. Like, so that's why this is going to exist, is to reward the players who perform best. The fact that the owners have any number out there, to me, is stunning. And to me, if I'm the players, I'm just trying to goose that number as high as I can, and I'm probably happy with it if it winds up at like 30.
Because I think this is part of the trade-off is the players like dropped the changing the service time years from to free agency.
The players originally wanted, if you were of a certain age. Well, no, I think what it was is if you were of a certain age, you reached it earlier.
Oh, yeah.
But they dropped that because that was just a non-starter for the owners. There's a couple other things that they still have out there that the owners say are non-starters as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to keep this in mind, though, when you hear like 15 million goes into a pool for pre-arb players, that's $500K per team.
Yeah. Well, and I think the owner's counter to that would be, this is only certain players. Not every team will have a player that meets these thresholds, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, but it's like, I mean, who knows? I mean, that's why I'm saying I don't know what the thresholds are. Is it like if you have a 5-war season, if you have a 3-war season?
It's not clear. What it says is that they will develop a mutually agreeable WAR statistic to allocate to the pool's funds. So it's not even like clear.
Have fun with that.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that one might get punted to the next CBA, but who knows? Competitive balance tax. It needs to go up, obviously, inflation. The owner's number at this point for what the CBA should go up to is, where is it? Yeah. Okay. So here are their numbers. In 2024, let's see we're going into 2022. Why are we talking about 2024?
Because
from its prior proposal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
In 2024, it's only up to 216 million.
And it was
2026, it's up to 2022. This past year, it was to 2026, it's 222 million. This past year, wasn't it 210?
Yeah.
Or so 208.
The thresholds go to 214 next year, 214 the year after, 216 and 24, 218, 222. Their previous offer was 214, 214.
You said that really quick. Can you say that one more time slowly?
Yeah. So the threshold proposal, what it was previously, by the owners
Okay.
was 214 million this year, 214 million next year, 214 million the year after. So it would be stagnant for 3 years. Then it would increase to 216 and 220 in years 4 and 5. Their proposal today was 214 in the first year, 214 in the second year, and then in the third year it would bump to 216, the fourth year to 218, and the fifth year to 222. So they basically bumped it like $2 million a year was their proposal. That was their big change there.
Okay. I mean, at one point they wanted no changes to CBT, which is bonkers. The players, where do the players want? I can't even. Oh, the players. The players want.
Players are like 250.
Okay, here it is. The players' last proposal was 245 million.
Yes, yeah.
CBT now, so they want a big jump. And again, I do think that one is knowing that it's not going to go that high. And I guess all of these, even the pre-arb pool, they know it's never going to be 105 million.
That's what I was trying to say is like the players' numbers are high, but they have to do that for negotiation purposes.
Yeah, because the owners are starting so low.
Exactly.
So that's where the owners, that's where that is. Penalties for going over.
This is wild.
The infuriating one.
Yeah.
The owners' last proposal had teams losing draft picks for going over the CBT. Now pause here. Currently, the penalties for going over the first CBT level are just taxing the money. Going over the second CBT level is just taxing the money more. Going over the third level of the CBT, which is like 250 million, your first pick dropped 10 spots. There was no losing picks. And like there's other things about going over the tax where like it has to do with free agent compensation. Your changes if you go over the CBT. Fine. Their last proposal, you lost a draft pick just for going over the first level. Lost it. Gone. Poof. Gone. Yeah. Their proposal today no longer has a draft pick being lost if you just go over the first level. If you go over the second level at like 234 million, you lose a second round pick. If you go over the third level, you lose a first round pick.
It's wild to me that they're basically operating like their last offer is what the old CBA was, and they're like, we're giving you a concession by
let me make an analogy
of something that wasn't there before.
Let me make an analogy. Ian and I are negotiating his payment as for Sox prospects. Not that I set his payment, but just as theoretical. And I say, okay, we will pay you this, but I get to stab you 3 times. And Ian says, what? No, why do you get to stab me? I want you to stab me never. And I say, okay, my new proposal is I get to stab you twice. I've made a concession. Now it's your turn to make a concession. That's not a concession. That's arbitrarily setting a starting point and resetting your arbitrary starting point. That's not negotiation. This is wild. I don't understand it.
And the players, what we were talking about, like Alex Wood tweeted, if the penalties increase under the CBT/luxury tax, it does not matter what the threshold is. My God. And that was in all caps. Make the threshold $1 billion. It doesn't matter. Teams already don't spend because they use the current penalties as an excuse not to. Imagine if the penalties got worse. Shaking my head. And it's like the players saw right through this.
Go over every year, I think.
Yeah.
And usually there's usually like two of them go over by like $1 million.
Yeah. Well, but this is what I was talking about earlier with the PR thing. So the responses to this tweet, here's an example. Don't play. Get another job if work conditions are that bad with all the stuff going on the last 2 years. Spoiled. Stop playing the victim, Jesus. We know it's two sides posturing. Get every counter proposal gets you a better deal. It's all about getting the best deal. You guys don't care about baseball. Like, that's the issue that what I was saying is like they don't have like the players are in a bad situation here. They don't have leverage, and the PR machine MLB has is a lot better than theirs. And like,
so that's just bonkers. The players want to some. I mentioned non-starters for the owners. The 2 non-starters for the owners on my list. One, the players want to expand Super 2 eligibility for arbitration. For the owners, that's a non-starter.
That's a non-starter, yeah.
So I don't think that's going to happen. They're going to have to take that off. The other one is the players want the owners to significantly cut revenue sharing. I don't remember what the proposal was on revenue sharing.
I don't remember because I don't think it's been. It was
no,
not.
It's been out there.
No, I'm saying it wasn't discussed. It hasn't been like discussed in the last couple because I think MLB has just said we're not even close to negotiating that. So just don't even bring it up.
Yeah, I mean, is it in the MLBPA?
No, they just say it's a non-starter.
The MLB, yeah, they just say they want, yeah. MLBPA, here it is. Drops new request. They want a $30 million cut to revenue sharing. So this was proposed around like the end of January,
and they cut it from their previous request was 100 million. The players was.
Yeah. Okay. Revenue sharing. Manfred, the players were proposing $100 million reduction in revenue sharing. Some reports say the players' new request is revenue sharing be decreased by 30 million. The point of it is that they don't want owners to just not invest in their team and eat up revenue sharing, which is what some do. They just own a team to make money off of revenue sharing. It's a thing that owners do. If there's less revenue sharing, then you need to spend money and make the playoffs to make money is the thought behind that. But the owners have said that's a non-starter. Service time manipulation, to get on a happier point. It looks like there is some movement and some common ground on that. So what the owners have proposed and what it looks like there's actually momentum on, and we've talked a little bit about this on a past episode, is this idea that if a player comes up and finishes in the top 5 in like certain awards voting, teams can get draft picks, which at first I thought it was a terrible idea. The more I think the owners kind of fixed the problem with it, where it would be any player who gets called up with less than 60 days of service.
Yeah, because it was before they had to have never played. So you would just, yeah.
Right. So you had an incentive to call these guys up because if they win awards, then you get draft picks. So they expanded the eligibility for players. I think it's an imperfect solution to a problem that there really isn't a perfect solution to.
Yeah, I agree. That's the problem. I don't know. And the thing that's funny though is that like one of the ways they're doing it is by talking about that they would add both, because I guess the players were concerned that one draft pick wasn't enough of an incentive, especially when you see some owners just don't want to spend money on draft picks anyway.
Right.
So the response to the owners was, oh, we'll add in an international selection as well for the international draft that isn't even a thing yet.
Yeah. Yeah. When we put in the inevitable international draft that you all know is coming, you get an international draft pick too. Okay, whatever. I mean, fine. So that's happening. Free agent compensation. This one confuses me because of how it's been reported. The report that was out there was that the owners would get rid of draft pick compensation for free agents. I think what was meant by that, and what most people have speculated it meant, is that the team signing a player wouldn't have to give up a draft pick. So in other words, there's no more like qualifying offer, or maybe there would be, in the sense that you would still get a pick for losing a guy, but you wouldn't lose a pick for losing a guy. Right. So it's like, that's
what's not clear though.
Yeah. It's not clear. I mean, if you get rid, we talked about this earlier, if you get rid of draft pick compensation, I get of getting rid of losing a draft pick for signing a guy. But if you get rid of a team losing a guy and getting a draft pick, it has adverse consequences. Ian, you want to mention that? What the adverse consequences are? It
means that in season the teams have no leverage and they would just be forced to take pretty much anything for a player in a trade. And the results would be that small market teams or, non-contenders would just start trading their best players earlier because they would want to maximize their leverage in the return they would get.
And I mean, even like a team like the Red Sox.
Well, yeah, exactly.
If you know you're not going to re-sign Xander Bogaerts.
You're right. And there's no draft pick, you would just trade him now.
Trade him. You have to trade him.
Yeah.
Trade him.
Yeah.
Like, are you going to risk it? Like, I mean, yeah, like, look, it's like when the Red Sox traded John Lester with the hope that they would re-sign him, because at the time they got more in the trade than they would get in draft pick compensation for losing him. You're going to have that with every big free agent. If the team's not in contention, even if the team is in contention, it might make sense.
Yeah. And all it will do it just will give the contending teams more leverage. It'll just be like, okay, you're going to like Trevor Story this past year. Like the Rockies didn't trade Story. And he ended up obviously going to free agency. And at the death, because they said the offers they got weren't, equivalent value of a pick, which is questionable.
Skeptical.
But anyway, imagine now what it would be if there was no pick attached. Like you could just, the Red Sox would call and say, well you can let him walk away for nothing, or we'll give you, like your example was like, we'll give you Blaze Jordan. Yeah. Like if you're the Rockies, you kind of have to take the offer now, because it's like, if that's the best offer you get, and the other option is they walk away for nothing, like it's better than nothing. And so it's just, if there's no compensation for the teams that are losing the players, then that's going to create a really imbalanced system, in my opinion.
Put it this way. This is literally a problem we are trying to fix in a dynasty baseball league you and I are in.
Yeah. Well, no, but it's also a problem you see in other sports. And like you see it, like, for example, in the NBA, the way they get around it is that you can sign and trade people. You can't do that in baseball. Like,
right.
The NBA had to create a mechanism in order to basically stop that, like to make that like palpable. So it's like,
Yep. Okay. Draft lottery is happening.
It's definitely going to happen. The question is, how many spots is it going to be?
Yeah. I think the owner's number is 3. The players is 8.
Yeah.
And it's probably going to wind up,
which makes sense. Just get to 5. Like,
get to 5 and let's do it and try it for a few years and see how that works.
And I will say, like, obviously the NBA has the draft lottery. If MLB was smart, they'd look at this and realize it's an opportunity to create a whole like thing out of it. Like the NBA draft lottery is a huge deal each year.
Yeah. And here's the problem though. I don't think 5 is enough, because the NBA draft is very different.
Yes.
Very different. When you have the draft lottery, MLB very rarely has a situation where you have the Zion Williamson. Yeah. Maybe that's a bad example, but Tim Duncan, like this guy is going to go number 1 and immediately be a stud.
Yeah.
MLB, like the Red Sox got the best player in last year's draft at pick 4.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, part of that is because,
but the reason is because of
money.
Is because of the money. Yeah, it's because they changed the payment structure, or they got rid of basically they created hard slotting, or not hard slotting, but a hard bonus pool. That incentivizes teams to move money around so they can get a wider variance of players.
Yeah, look, it's worth drafting Henry Davis, even if he's not the number 1 guy on your board. If he's the number 2 guy on your board, is going to sign for
because then you can get
less.
Bubba Chandler for $3 million in the second round, Anthony Solometo for 1.5 in the third round, or whatever, like all that stuff. Yeah,
right. So it's better to get 3 very good scratch tickets than the 1. I get that.
Exactly. Yeah,
so that's fine. But yeah, I mean, so that's definitely happening.
Well, and speaking of drafts, though, this one made me one of the owner's proposals was increasing the Rule 4, which is the draft, the normal draft, the signing bonus values, and the international draft slots to add more than 23 million of additional spending on amateur players compared to 2019. And at first we were confused about the 2019 part, but of course the bonus pools have frozen the last 2 years, because that actually makes sense. Mm-hmm. But if you do the math, they're basically saying adding, $750,000, $800,000 per team for both across the Rule 4 draft and the international free agent pool. It's nothing.
So in other words,
it's the equivalent
of
like
numbers had gone up the way they were supposed to.
Yeah.
Like barely anything.
Yeah.
Again, this is not a concession.
No,
it's not a concession at all.
It's a thing that in normal years, pre-COVID times, was actually happening already, as we saw the bonus pools increase each year.
Bonkers. Just let's move on before I start screaming. Limit to the number of times a player can be optioned. This is an interesting proposal on MLB's part. MLB proposed limiting it to 5 times in a season that a player can be
Players
optioned.
Said 4.
Players have said 4 in response, but they're also, you said Evan Drellick tweeted.
Yeah, he's tweeted that there's other strings attached to it. So without knowing those.
I mean, I don't know if he means literal strings attached, or if it's like what you were saying of adverse consequences of like, is a guy not going to get called up now?
Right.
Because the team wants to make sure it has its options left. But that said, the number of guys who get optioned that many times, I would like to see the number.
Yeah, that's
I bet it's less than 10. Like,
but this also just seems to me like a small potato thing that should not be focused on. It shouldn't be like a key tenet of their proposal. Yeah. And this is kind of like, having something like that in there kind of takes me back to the last CBA negotiations where like the players were focused on
Seats
things
on the
like
bus.
rides for spring training.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I understand, I get what they're trying to go with here, but like, is this really a bit like a big ticket issue for you? Like the number of times the players can option? Because yeah, as you said, I would be very interested in how many people have actually been optioned 4 or 5 times in a season. Like,
yeah, I don't think it's many. I mean, I don't think the Red Sox did that to anyone.
Maybe
year.
like Hauk.
Oh yeah, I know, but 5 times.
Let me look.
Didn't happen look. 5. No way.
I'm trying to think of would anyone else fit that. Hauk's the only one I could think of.
Hauk's the only one I can think of because of the like fake options.
Let's see. Oh, I have to go back to 2021.
Yeah, I've got it. Okay, so they optioned him on. Oh, and then when they called it, but they only called him up as the 27th guy.
But that doesn't, and that wouldn't count.
They optioned him August, going backwards, August 13th, July 29th.
No. They were. Yes. Sorry. Yeah, you're
right. They only optioned 3 times, and then on April 6th.
Right. So that's what I mean. Like, it's going to be probably a handful of players.
Oh, and I guess
team.
during spring training, so 4 times.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they called him up twice to be the 27th man in a doubleheader,
which doesn't count. Which wouldn't count, I would assume. So yeah,
I presume it wouldn't count. No.
Yeah.
So they'd basically be able to still do that, but it's the guys that like wind up coming up and down 10 times. Mm-hmm. Like, I just think it's small potatoes, and we're probably talking about it longer than it deserves now that I think about it. Limited. Okay. Universal DH looks like it's happening, and I just wanted to mention this because this is so frustrating. It's out there that the owners and players had agreed on it previously, but here's how they agreed on it. The players said, yes, we agree. We should have universal DH. The owner said, fine, we'll do universal DH, but X, Y, and Z. So they attach strings to it. So that's like saying, like, you're at my house and you say, let's get a pizza. And I said, that sounds like a great idea. Let's order a pizza, but you have to do my dishes and you have to sweep the floor because you're so good at sweeping the floor, like you said in the intro, right? You're great at cleaning. And you're like, well, no, why would I have to do? I'm just saying, let's get a pizza. And it's like, oh, I thought we agreed. You don't want to? And it's like, no, that's not agreement.
Yeah. It's just,
that's not agreement.
I think the players, and I think both sides have to know, like, if you're giving anything in this, you have to expect, or if you're getting anything in this, you have to expect to be giving something back.
But here's the thing.
That's where it falls into, though, what is, like, can they just agree on things that are for the good of baseball? Because I think does anyone not think a universal DH would be good for baseball? I don't think so.
No. And I honestly don't agree that it's that big of a get for players, because it's not
I don't either.
Roster spots.
That's why it's funny hearing them describe it. It's the veterans. The addition of the universal designated hitter would help extend the career of some hitters, and the average DH salary, which was more than $9 million, would create 15 more significant jobs with National League clubs. Like, first off, there's no chance all 15 of them are spending $9 million on a DH.
Correct.
The majority of them are just going to cycle players through on off days or like as rest days. But like, come on, like,
how many? Well, look at it this way: how many true DHs were there in MLB last year? JD Martinez, Nelson Cruz,
Jose Abreu played first base too.
Yep.
He's kind of one, but
there was one I was just thinking of that I just forgot. Like, there aren't many.
Stanton.
But yeah, I guess now he is. Let me pull up Fangraphs. Like, the true DH is already kind of dead.
Yeah, because teams have realized that the best way to use it is just as a way to cycle guys through on off days, or you just exploit a platoon advantage there and have, like, Dan Vogelbach and Jordan Luplow or someone there.
I think Fangraphs does. Okay, so looking at DHs, because it's like when there's the All-Star.
Franmil.
Oh, Franmil
Reyes.
Okay,
yeah.
So 12 guys had qualified at bats at DH. Oh, I missed a huge one. Shohei Ohtani.
Oh, yeah.
Duh.
Yeah.
Yordan Alvarez, that's who I was thinking of.
Gotcha. So there
Giancarlo Stanton, Josh Donaldson got a bunch of time at DH, but that's because he was hurt. He's usually a full-time.
It's because he couldn't run. It's because he couldn't play the field. Yeah.
They've got Austin Meadows here. I don't know how many of his at bats came at DH.
He DH'd a lot for them before they got Cruz.
Ryan Mountcastle, I guess, DH'd a bunch. Jed Lowry, like,
right. It's
whatever. Trey Mancini, who's on the same team as Mountcastle.
Jed Lowry's not getting $9 million to play DH though. Like that's the thing is like
Miggy Cabrera, who like, okay, like, so he could DH instead of just getting cut, whatever. Like it's not a big deal. You're not creating 15 new jobs for players.
No.
If you add 15 spots, like I bet 4 of them are good. Like,
well, and also there's the trade-off that if you're doing that, you're taking away a spot from a pitcher. So like you're taking away a job at the same time.
Now, granted, you're probably taking away a spot from the 12th guy in the bullpen.
Right. But I'm just saying, like, still, that's a person in the salaries, union. That is a person in the union, though.
That's true. Expanded playoffs, that's a foregone conclusion. It's just a matter of how many.
And we said that's the player's biggest bargaining chip.
Other than losing games. Yeah.
Losing games, yeah.
It's definitely going to be at least 12, which is funny because all the like Zips projections come out and the Red Sox are projected to finish 4th in the AL East, but they would still make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Because they'd still be the third
one.
Which is kind of bonkers.
Like, but the increased playoffs, I'm somewhat like, it's interesting to me because like, so if you look at like the other major American sports, you have like the NBA right now, they added the play-in tournament. They've like kind of changed their playoffs the last couple of years. The NFL added a playoff spot this year.
Yep.
The NBA has 20 out of 30 teams make it. The NFL is 16 out of 32. Like, MLB having only 10 teams, even after the additional wild card, is still the outlier among all the major professional sports that have playoffs for other than MLS. In terms of like the number of teams that make it. So like, I understand expanding it a little bit, but I don't know. I just think that getting like any more than maybe 12 or I guess 14 is the max, but I think even 12 is a substantial change enough. But I mean, as we said, like if the players want to get as much as they can, they're probably going to have to go to 14. Like that's the way they would get more from other areas is by expanding it to the level the owners want.
And for those of you responding like, oh, they're cheapening the game, the tradition, like I don't disagree. But the problem is at the end of the day, you have to realize this is an entertainment product. They're not going to lose fans or viewers because they expanded the playoffs.
Well, and that's
what
the thing.
They
you
are
look like
gain is playoff games that get more eyes on television.
Or if you look at it from the owner's side, it's more playoff money for the playoffs. For the players.
That. And also, here's the other big deal to the players and why they don't necessarily want expanded playoffs too much is the easier it is to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, the less you have to spend.
The less incentive there is to spend to make the playoffs.
Exactly. But I do think that, looking at the NBA example, I know that was a concern with the NBA when they did it, but like you look this year and you had teams like Sacramento who are kind of out of the playoff picture or were not even on the play-in line. And they went out and were buyers at the trade deadline to try and make the play-in tournament. So if that is incentivizing teams that might not normally be competitive to try and be competitive because they're within like reach, then that's, I think, is a good thing.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
So we don't know, like, and it's the same thing with the NFL. People were concerned about expanding the NFL playoffs. I don't think anyone complained. Yeah, the first weekend of the playoffs was bad this year, but after that, the last couple of weeks in the NFL playoffs were incredible.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Like, if you're the
I don't think people would complain. I don't think like fans would complain.
If you're the players, right. But if you're the players union, you don't care about trades because trades don't create.
Of course.
Right.
Of course.
So that's why it's like so you've got like, so say it used to be 5 teams in each league that made it. If you expand it to 6 or 7, the teams that are, like from 3 to 8 aren't necessarily going to need to spend more to make sure they're in the top 5. You only need to spend enough to make sure you're in the top 6 or 7.
Yeah.
And if you're close, then you can trade to bridge the gap.
Right.
So there are trade-offs. So just think of it that way on expanded playoffs. I think that's actually it. Did I miss anything on?
No, I think we covered as much as we know. And of course there are going to be nuances to these that we are not privy to and that no one's privy to and that's why it's hard. But this is just like the outline and kind of the big ticket issues that are being addressed and what you're going to be hearing from and kind of what we're going to be hearing about over the next couple of weeks is hopefully the sides meet more, which we'll see if it happens or not. But yeah, I mean, I would say that I think kind of just to wrap up that if we don't, they're obviously not going to, they're going to put off putting a hard date as long as possible, but I can't see the players ramping up in less than a month. Like they're going to need at least a month. So I think that there's probably another 10 days if there's been no movement by the 22nd, that's when I think we'll start to hear like,
and you know what I wonder is, given that we've now got precedent for this because of COVID, would they, for the start of the season, in order to get the teams playing sooner, expand rosters temporarily?
Probably. I could see that. And because the guys not on the 40 would already have been like stretched out.
Right. Yeah. Because minor league spring training is going to go off the way it's supposed to.
Like beginning of March or something. So
yeah. But I guess that doesn't make sense because you'd have to add the guys to the 40.
No, because they could also just do what they did with the COVID restrictions last year and just make them so they don't count towards the 40. Just like,
but but that was if they were replacing someone who had COVID.
Right. But I'm saying that they expand it and say you can, you get 5.
I don't know that they would do that. What I was thinking is you expand, like I'm saying during 2020, expand the roster to 28 for.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they could do that, but then the ramping up thing wouldn't be different.
We'll come back in mid to late April. But rosters will start at 30 for a couple of weeks. They'll go down to 28 for
I could definitely see that.
A couple of weeks. Go down to,
with the pitchers, especially, like obviously they're throwing on their own, but it's not the same level, and there's no way to simulate the game situations that you get during spring training. Because I think spring training is more for the pitchers than the hitters. It's building them up. Like hitters, timing is important, but you can do that in the cage. We've seen it before with hitters, just like you just don't really care during spring training. Pitchers, spring training is pretty important, like ramping up, and you can't simulate that in bullpens.
Right. Exactly. So that's an interesting thought. We'll see. I really hope I really hope this gets figured out. One other note, because I hate this right now.
This is all you. I know.
So there's a minor league lawsuit regarding minor league salaries and being paid during spring training. I think this one is that people maybe don't know this. Players don't get paid during spring training, which to me has always seemed
the minor league players.
Major leaguers don't either, I don't think.
But they have I guess. No, they don't. You're right. Yeah,
because they don't care millions of dollars.
Well, and also their per diem is significantly more than the minor league per diem.
Right.
So
yeah. There's a minor league per diem.
It's not a lot.
Yeah, so this is okay. It's the Aaron Senna. I don't know how it's pronounced. Sen lawsuit. It's an 8-year-old lawsuit. It was, I presume, a motion to dismiss. Anyway, the part of the lawsuit is that players don't get paid during spring training. MLB's argument is basically that the players obtain a greater benefit from the training opportunities. This is the lawyer for MLB. The players obtain a greater benefit from the training opportunities that they are afforded than the clubs, who actually just incur the cost of having to provide that training. During the training season, the players are not employees and would not be subject to either the Fair Labor Standards Act or any state minimum wage act. Show me what happens to a player who's like, nah, I'm not coming to spring training. They're not going to get paid during the season because they're going to get suspended. It's mandatory. It's work. If you're required to show up, it's work. You should get paid for it. And by the way, there are spring training games. Fans come to see them. The teams make money. They're employees. This is the most ludicrous thing.
Well, but their argument is that no one is paying to go see the minor league players play in spring training. I would guess is how I'm just saying that that's their argument. True.
But let's back up beyond the legal argument. If you are MLB, you are a sport that the number 9 overall pick one year chose football over baseball. Granted, because he's really good. And this is Kyler Murray I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Granted, he's very good. But the fact that it was a foregone conclusion that he was going to, you want to try and attract people to your sport.
Well, and it should be mentioned. It's not just spring training. The same thing applies in instructs. Like the guys who go to the fall instructional
winter warm up, these guys,
or winter warm up, or any of those.
Presumably,
yes, fair.
And we should say players. Some teams don't pay players for extended spring training.
Yeah,
which is nuts to me. Yeah. Absolutely bonkers.
Well, and this falls back on the good of baseball. I just don't understand why an MLB lawyer would want that argument on the record.
No.
Why would you want that quote circulating around? Because it just
Well, it's not the lawyer. So the lawyer, you're representing your client.
No, I understand, but I don't understand why MLB as a whole would want that like circulating around. And it's another one of those examples of like it's a drop in the bucket. Like if they paid the minor leaguers for spring training, given they barely pay them anyway, it wouldn't be a very much, and it would not harm the bottom line of clubs at all. And the good PR they would get from it, as we saw last year from like the housing initiative thing, would greatly outweigh it. But it's just like
it's nuts, absolutely nuts. So I just wanted to point that out and just show like this is what we're dealing with here. Like if you're one of the people out there who thinks, I mean, look, MLB players get paid a lot, minor league players don't. Revenue in baseball has gone up more than players' salaries have. And you might say, well, they're still making millions of dollars. They should be happy with it. If you are in an industry where the industry makes a certain percentage of money and it makes more of that every year, and you're not getting any of the cut that it goes up every year, I'd be pissed too. I don't care what the number is that I'm getting. I'm not just going to be happy with it. It's just, it's bonkers. Like like no one is going to the ballpark and saying, man, I want to go see the Red Sox. I just want to support anything John Henry does. Like, I really just want, look, I loved the Cosby Show. I want to support Tom Warner. Maybe not the great example to use, but you know what I mean? Like I don't no one's doing that. Ugh, it just makes me angry. Anyway, let's just move on to things that aren't going to make the vein in my forehead bulge out. Moving on, Ian, there have been some transactions. Let's talk about transactions. The Red Sox did make some minor league free agent signings that are kind of interesting. We'll start with the earliest one that is probably the least interesting, at least to me. The Red Sox re-signed catcher Roldani Baldwin.
Yay.
Didn't really do a whole lot in Double-A last year. I think this one. Yeah. It's a matter. It's exactly what we talked about last episode.
Yep. They have two catchers on the 40-man. They need bodies. You need bodies for minor league spring training. Yeah. It's going to get going. He's familiar with the pitchers. The coaches are familiar with him. It makes sense.
Gets a non-roster invite for the same reason he got one last year, that you need guys to catch.
Yep.
He's not a threat to make them. I don't like when they re-signed him and I was doing the projections page, like I put him as the like inactive players in Portland. Like I can't see, but I think he's there in case they need to replace Wong and Hernandez and Worcester.
Yep, because they don't have any AAA catchers if those guys.
I think they need to sign at least one, if not two more AAA catchers.
Oh, I think two more. Yeah.
Yeah. Also interesting, also receiving non-roster invites to spring training were first baseman Roberto Ramos and infielder, mostly second baseman, but also plays third, Yolmer Sanchez. Ramos is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the reaction that I saw to him on Twitter, I think was overthinking it a little. Because I made the point, look, AAA first base, the Red Sox are kind of good there. They got a guy, maybe you've heard of him, in Tristan Casas. That said, he's interesting. It's plus raw, at least.
Oh, no. It's like 80 raw. It's
80 raw?
Massive raw.
Massive raw. Hits for a lot of power.
Yeah, it's like it's elite raw power.
But huge platoon split. He's a lefty.
Cannot hit lefties at all.
Yep.
He struggles against velocity, doesn't really pick up secondary pitches, has a ton of swing and miss in his game, but
Kills
it's massive
righties.
raw power. Yeah.
Kills righties. And I saw
he's like Josh Ockamy. It's a Josh Ockamy replacement. Like it's
he's
profile wise.
Richer man's Josh Ockamy.
Yeah, it's more power. It's more raw.
Power.
Yeah.
People saying potential platoon partner with Bobby Dahlbeck. No. That's like plan C.
He's someone that you bring into camp. You see how he looks as an NRI because he's been playing over, I think, in Korea or Japan. I can't remember which one of the last couple of years.
He was in the KBO.
So you bring him into camp.
The LG or KG Twins.
You bring him into camp, see how he does, and then they needed someone to be like a DH first baseman in Worcester.
Right. And so we've got him projected to DH in Worcester right now. Yolmer Sanchez, I think that's another one. Like I still think they would have signed him anyway because they needed more infield depth in Worcester. Yep. Especially given how uncertain the second base situation is in Boston right now, because
but
season starts tomorrow. Kike Hernandez is bouncing between second and center with JBJ and Arroyo.
But this is what's hard is like there's going to be a ton of transactions over that first week or whatever it is after things get done.
Yep.
And for all we know, they could address second base completely. Like, so, but
And
I do think that
AAA.
I do think Yolmer Sanchez is like, and I think the guy he's replacing more or less is the person who signed today, Jairo Munoz, who signed elsewhere. Mm-hmm. He's going to be like an infield utility depth player, can really pick it, can't really hit, and then also it's coverage for Jeter Downs and Jonathan Rouse if those guys can't start the season because they're on the 40.
Yeah, if Aruz and Downs aren't there, then his role is very clear. If Aruz and Downs are there, then the three of them rotate the infield.
Yeah,
basically, along with Ryan Fitzgerald. It might get crowded, and I think you're going to see a lot of guys, assuming injuries don't become an issue. A lot of guys are probably going to get cut when the 40-man guys come back.
Yeah.
Or 40-man guys are going to get DFA'd.
But the thing is, though, that the 40-man guys, like, if they're not going to be there to start the season, and like the longer this goes, they have to ramp up too. So like, let's say the agreement is reached on April 1st and those guys start April 10th. They're still going to need another month plus to get ready. So you're going to need those replacement guys for at least, a couple of weeks because the minor league regular season is still going to get going at a normal time, as far as we understand. Mm-hmm. And like, I had someone float to me, like maybe they delay AAA, but I can't see that happening. Like, I don't know if that's like that. It was just like a speculatory, like maybe, like, who knows, like maybe they decide to do that, but I don't see them, doing that to their partners at AAA because there's nothing to do with them. So,
no. And I know you said, so just some other guys from the Red Sox who signed elsewhere. I think actually a lot of the reaction to Sanchez, because Munoz hadn't signed yet, was that Sanchez was replacing Jack Lopez, who signed elsewhere as well. Lopez, I got away from this page.
Detroit.
He signed with the Tigers. That's right. Yeah, because I saw the joke that he was the shortstop that Eduardo Rodriguez wanted.
Okay, that's fun.
Which is pretty funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, he signed elsewhere. Who else signed elsewhere? Jose
Raynel
Espada.
Espinal.
Yeah, Jose Espada signed with an independent league team, whatever. Raynel Espinal signed with the Giants, which I think he's the fourth Red Sox minor leaguer the Giants have signed this offseason. So apparently
didn't they sign Karasetti also?
Karasetti.
No, you know what the connection is. Come on.
Well, Emmanuel DeHaze. You think it's
what do all those guys have in common? And who is with the Giants?
One was a hitter.
Well, it's three pitchers. Like
Johnny Pareda.
I guess Karasetti also wasn't there when Bannister was with the Red Sox, but yeah. I know it's not, but oh wait, Karasetti was literally with the Giants in 2020. I'm looking at his player page right now. Yeah.
All right. Well, there you go. But yeah, so they signed Raynel Espinal.
I like Raynel Espinal.
Yeah,
he's a good old guy. Like, yeah,
good up and down guy. And then the Red Sox released two guys. One of them I think is kind of interesting. They're just a couple of DSL / sort of DSL guys. The less interesting one is Sebastian Guerra. I just like to do a quick postmortem on guys when they are no longer with New York. Signed in 2019 for $25K. And this is like that signing class is the one that got completely screwed by COVID because he played one season in 2021 as an 18-year-old, played in 28 games, hit 200, and he got cut, signed for signed for $25K. So long, Sebastian Guerra. The other guy that's interesting is Marco Cardoso. Cardoso, who is German, signed with the Red Sox in 2017 for $10K, but was interesting. He played in the Tricky League in 2017 and was at the Fall Instructional League, but he returned to Germany for non-baseball reasons the following 2 years, playing in the German League, and he was actually pretty good in the German League. He signed as a switch hitter, but he gave up hitting from the left side during that time. And he was set, we heard, to come to the US in 2020, but COVID-19 apparently thwarted that. Was on the roster for the German team in the 2020 World Baseball Classic qualifier that was called off due to COVID. Worked out. I'm pretty sure he was working out at the Dominican Academy this offseason. But he got released as well without actually playing a game for the Red Sox. So thought he might have been kind of interesting, but I think it just didn't work out for whatever reasons. So happy trails to those two. So transactions during a time when not much else is happening. The other thing, Ian, that happened is Baseball America and Keith Law of The Athletic both released their top 100 lists as well as their organizational rankings. Baseball America's, let's start with the top 100s, I guess. Baseball America and both BA and Keith Law had 4 Red Sox in their top 100. Something just went sideways with the.
They were not the same Red Sox, though.
They were not the same Red Sox, which is interesting. Here we go. All right, I had to refresh. Baseball America had ranked Marcelo Meyer 15th, Tristan Casas 19th, Nick York 31st, Jarren Duran 91st. It's the first time the Red Sox have had anyone above 47 since 20. What did I say it was? 17. I think it was 17 or 18. The year that Andrew Benintendi was like the number one prospect on their ranking. Put it that way. So I think that was 17, right? That would have been 17, not 18, because 18 was the World Series year. So the system is coming back. Do you have Keith Law's numbers up, or do I need to grab those? I think I have them right here, actually. Keith Law ranked.
Yeah, it's good you do, because I was literally looking at his 2021 list, and I got really confused because I couldn't find Nick York, and I was just having a panic attack. But
Law ranked Marcelo Meyer 18th, which is comparable to where BA had him. Nick York 37th, which is comparable to where BA had him. Mm-hmm. Tristan Casas 56, which seems a little light to me.
I mean, it's the first base part of it.
It's the first base thing, and it's how much you weigh that. Yep. And then 86th, he had Brian Baio, which is interesting.
It is an interesting one.
Yep.
Because Baio, I was talking
is what I mean.
No, I know, and I was talking with a scout about him like this week, and because I was working on like some stuff for his player page, and we were talking about like kind of like what do you think he is, and it was just like he's one of the hardest guys to peg like a future projection on, because the range of outcomes is still massive. Like, yeah, you tell me he's a mid-rotation starter and I believe it. You tell me that he's a closer and I'll believe it.
You tell me he's just a middle reliever, I believe it.
Exactly. And all of those roles are valuable in their own right, but how you compare him to other pitchers and other players is difficult because there's so many different paths that his development could go on, especially for a guy in the high minors.
And I think there are going to be a lot of guys that are like that right now because we lost 2020 as a chance to view development. And for some of these guys as a chance to develop, period. Like Baio wasn't at the alt site. You know what I mean? Like we didn't get to see him at the alt site.
We don't know what he was doing. Like,
yeah, he came back
during
with
the
better
off season
stuff.
Or whatever.
And it's for the same reason that I'm not ready to give up on Jeter Downs or Gilberto Jimenez. Is the same reason I want to be careful on how high I get on Brian Baio, who had a breakout last year.
Yeah.
Is that I want to see this.
Or like Jarren Duran, same thing.
Or Jarren Duran, but Duran also had like the same reason I'm both not getting too high or too low on him based on MLB.
Well, and I should say with Keith Law's list, both Duran and Jeter Downs were in his list of like 15 guys who just missed.
Yeah. And actually BA listed, was it Baio and their guys who just missed? I think. And then they had a list of guys who only got
Josh Winkowski
got one vote. And it was like Winkowski was on there, and there was one more.
It was one of the Red Sox. Who was it? Was it Brian Mata?
No, it wasn't Brian Mata. Who the hell was it?
Jay Groom, Blaze Jordan, one of them.
I might have been.
Oh, Blaze it was Wilkelman. It was Gonzalez. It was Wilkelman.
Oh, Wilkelman Gonzalez. It was Collazo, I think, had Wilkelman.
Yeah. I mean, if you saw Wilkelman Gonzalez really good.
Oh, no, it was the other way around. It was Matt Eddy, I think, that had Wilkelman.
Having seen Wilkelman Gonzalez, if you saw him really good, like I buy it. He's a 19-year-old guy who is in low A dominating guys with 3 pitches. Like that's interesting.
Yep. I think it's extremely heavy on a guy that doesn't have a great track. Doesn't have a great track record.
I mean, I wouldn't do it, but
yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. So yeah,
I do think, and I looking at Keith Law's list, I do think I give him credit. He owned the Nick York thing.
Kind of.
But like, yeah. So, because putting him, 37, and he obviously was one of the most critical people about the pick at the time. But I respect that he was willing to, he's not like sticking to his morals and be like, nope, still not a top 100 prospect. He's changed his opinion after, talking to scouts. And I mean, you had to, if you saw Nick York play this year, you knew he was an easy top, like 40 prospect. Like I think we were talking about that after I saw him back in like the summer, that this was like, oh man, this is like a stud. Mm-hmm. So, but then, I mean, the flip side of it though, is like, I'm very confused with the Jake Room thing from last year that you brought up. I don't know how that factored in, but.
Oh, and that's so let's explain what that is.
Basically, just he mentioned, what was it, an article about the draft that Jake Room was like the top prospect in the system or something?
It was an article about who just drafted their new top prospect.
Yeah.
And the Red Sox were one of the teams that they said, yes, they drafted their new top prospect.
Yeah.
And it was, other than him, Jay Groom might be their top prospect right now. And it's like, what?
It was weird. And then Groom's nowhere to be found in the top 100.
No,
so.
Or even a just missed. When he pitched very well after that article came out at a higher level. He had 3 great AA starts. So like, I don't understand where that was.
Well, I'm interested to see what his Red Sox list looks like when it comes out this week.
See that as well. The other thing we should mention is organizational talent rankings. BA listed the Red Sox with the 11th best farm system. Law had them at 20, which to me feels light. I agree. My theory on that, Ian, I have one reason I think that's that low is that, remember, Keith Law was one of the high guys on Jeter Downs.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he had Duran in his top 100 last year as well.
He did. Yeah.
I think he is essentially dinging the Red Sox for the fact that Downs had such a bad year and fell out of his top 100, as well as Duran's struggles in MLB more than he should.
I think it's
I'm not
more
saying
that,
on purpose. I'm not saying he hates them.
I think it's probably
subconsciously.
I think it's that he just doesn't think that the guys from 6, 7 to that group from 7 to 20 is as good as some others do.
Yeah, I think that's probably true, and I think that's
we've talked about it that is like it gets weak pretty quickly. Like
it does.
They have a really nice top part. They have some okay secondary pieces. Then they have kind of like a part where there are guys we have ranked like in the top 25, 30 that I would be more comfortable if they were in the 30s or the 40s in like a deeper system.
Well, yes, I don't know that I agree with that.
I mean, we can differ on that. It's just, there are guys like, I think like Connor Wong's a good example. I think Connor Wong's a nice player. Like I don't have him 16th in the Red Sox.
But I don't think Connor Wong should matter in an organizational talent ranking. I think an organizational talent ranking should really only be looking at like a top 10, which Wong is most certainly not in.
No, I mean, he definitely is not. But I think I disagree. If you're going to do an organizational talent ranking, like more than 10 prospects matter. And I do think the way Fangraphs does it is pretty like smart, where they list prospects who are above a certain grade. And so you see with some teams, they only will discuss like 25, 30 prospects, like the Red Sox, for example. I think last year they only had like 34.
Right.
Then you go to other teams where they released, I want to say it was like, it was like the
plus.
Rays or someone was recently done it. And it was like 60, or there was the Pirates. It was the Pirates. And the list was like 60 something people long. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I think that's where the Red Sox are still lacking, is that like they have that high end stuff, and we see it reflected on the top 100 guys. And you compared it, like Keith Law is the Cubs ahead of the Red Sox, and the Cubs only have one top 100 prospect. But off the top of my head, I can think of like 5 other Cubs prospects who probably were pretty close to the top 100, who I would take over like those secondary Red Sox prospects, guys like, Kevin Alcantara, Owen Casey, like Reggie Preciado. Like you get to that second tier, like I would take those guys over Gilberto Jimenez, Blaze Jordan, etc. in a heartbeat, and they're ranked like the same number in the top 10, if that makes sense. Right. So I think that's the weakness of the Red Sox system, is not that very top group. It's in that second and third tier is kind of like not as great.
Right. I guess. I mean, yeah.
Because you look at it and like realistically, it's basically just middle relievers, or it's like fringy relievers or back end starters and catchers. Like
where?
Like, I'm talking about when you get down to like, look at our 11 to 20. It's like pitcher, Blaze is different, catcher, pitcher, Benelis, pitcher. Like, then, the next group is like catcher. There's a bunch of infielders in here. But like,
what's inherently wrong with a catcher? Like, I don't understand.
I just don't, there's no upside with those guys. Like, I just don't see any.
Why is there a lack of upside in a catcher?
I'm talking about the catchers.
You don't like those particular guys.
I'm saying that like, Connor Wong, to me, I don't have him in my personal top 20.
That's fine.
Like, I'm just saying that I think that's where he's getting the weakness from, and why he dings them is that, other teams' 16th ranked prospect, or the guys in that range, have more upside or are more interesting than like guys like Connor Wong.
But I have a hard time thinking there are 19 teams that have, I mean, looking at the
I agree with you. I think 20 is too low, but I'm saying that, yeah.
What I'm saying is that like when I look at our top 10, if I'm looking at like the top 8, okay, maybe I'm a little down on Downs and Duran, but like they're in there because there's potential there. Baio, Jordan, Groom at 6, 7, 8 on our rankings. I think that's a damn good 6, 7, 8. I do. I think those are solid 45s. They're like with potential. No, are they all going to hit it? No. Jimenez it is a down arrow. Brian Mott is a Tommy John surgery question mark. I get that. Seabold, you might have him a lot lower, but like Wickelman's interesting. Winkowski's interesting. Murphy's interesting. You just said Blaze is pretty interesting. I think they've got guys that are like Brandon Walter. If he has another year like he had this year, he's an easy top 10 guy. No question to me. And if he goes to AA and shoves, like there's potential there. Benellis for a guy that just got drafted. There's potential there as a guy with power with a decent plate approach.
Yeah,
Thad Ward is another Tommy John question mark that could go either direction. If Noah Song comes back, who the hell knows?
But like I see what I was talking about is like I'm looking at the Cubs list on Fangraphs because they were the ones that like they have it 14 and 13, Pete Crow Armstrong and Alexander Canario. Like
Pete Crow Armstrong on our list. I
would have both of them in the top 10.
Ooh.
I would take them over Gilberto in a heartbeat. It's not even close.
Yeah, but you also have Gilberto lower on your list.
Fair, but I'm just saying, but I have to go off of our list. I'm just saying that where we have him, like.
Okay, on your personal list, where would you put him? That's what I want to know.
Let me look at, I got to look at mine.
Like, because that's really what matters, right? So if I can.
I think I have 14. I think I had Gilberto 14, right?
Something like that.
Let me look.
I mean, he's 23 on Baseball America's list.
Who is? PCA?
No. Gilberto is 23rd on the BA's Red Sox list. That's why I'm saying, like,
I'm 14.
I get that you like him more than Gilberto, and that's
my example is like I would take those guys over Blaze Jordan.
You would take Pete Crow Armstrong over Blaze Jordan.
I think so because Blaze Jordan has one pathway. Like Pete Crow Armstrong is a solid defender if the bat he can hit, if the power develops and how the hit tool develops is like his upside. Blaze Jordan is like he's a first baseman.
Let me see where BA has Pete Crow Armstrong.
Like here, I'll read you. This is what Fangraphs said about him. Fangraphs has on his grades: hit 40, raw power 50, run 60, fielding 70, throw 55. So it's like they throw a Jackie. They say his profile compares to Jackie Bradley. Like I personally think
when is that report from? Because people who I guess he didn't play much this year.
He didn't play this year because he was hurt.
Yeah, because he got hurt pretty quick.
But I just think that type of profile is safer than Blaze Jordan's profile, for example.
So he's like I'm not team is he on? Who is he still with the?
Who
didn't he get traded? No,
he's on the Cubs.
He's on the Cubs now. Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Cubs list.
No. I know. I'm looking on BA. Is why I'm asking. I'm not. I know what you're looking at. I'm saying I want to pull up BA's top 30 and see what they see if he's where he is in their top 10.
Or like Alexander Canario is another guy. Like I think is comparable to Blaze Jordan, where it's huge raw power. You know, Canario has a massive arm. Hit tool question marks. Like sounds similar profile wise to someone like Blaze Jordan.
Okay, so the Cubs on the Cubs list they have Pete Crow Armstrong 4th.
Okay, that's a
55, very high. Yeah. And that's my point. Like,
but they have.
That's Fangraphs but I think lower on him than you are.
No. What I'm saying though is I think that illustrates though that variance that there's that like one site can have them 13, the other can 4 shows that they have good depth between that 4 to like 13 range. What I'm saying is like with the Red Sox system, no one is going to put like Connor Seabold at 4, for example.
But
do you know what I mean?
That means I don't think. No, I think there's variance of Pete Crow Armstrong because he's played 4 professional games and has 24 professional at bats, because we know for a fact, for example, like Pete Crow Armstrong was rumored to the Red Sox. I don't think that they had any intention of taking him there.
Oh, I don't think
they
so
even considered him there.
No, I don't think so either.
So like there's a variance on guys like there were, if Nick York had played 4, maybe Nick York's a bad example, but if he had played 4 games this year, the Red Sox would still think of him as a top 3 pick. And if you talk to someone in the Red Sox and that was your, like you would have him higher than if you were just talking to other teams.
Like, okay, like look at the BA top list. So they don't have Reggie Preciado like in their top 10. And like, what I'm saying is like, you don't think that matters that like there's like the guys from like 4 to 14 are pretty much interchangeable. Like that to me shows like that's a depth in the system.
I don't, because what I want to, because here's the reason I don't think the fact that they're interchangeable matters, because they could be interchangeable and 4 could be worse than 8 in another system. And that's the problem with comparing where a guy ranks in one system to where a guy ranks in another system. If you've got the grades
and like that's fair, but
okay. So let's look at it this way. Pete Crow Armstrong, BA gives a 55, 55, very high.
Very high.
I think that's what they give Meyer.
I'm gonna go look.
I think that's what they give Meyer.
For the Red Sox. No, Meyer I thought was a 6.
Is he a 60 very high?
I don't know. I'm bringing it up right now. Meyer is a 65 very high.
Oh, 65 very high. Okay.
They have they have Baio as a 55 high. He's high, not very high, but
okay. So they have Baio at 5 in the Red Sox system. So the Red Sox, the Baseball America rankings would have at least 5 guys in their rankings ahead of the Cubs' number 4 prospect. That's what I'm saying. It depends.
Right. No, and I understand that. But what I'm saying is
hold on. They've got Downs as a 55 high as well. So he would, in theory, be ranked ahead of Pete Crow Armstrong. So Pete Crow Armstrong on BA's Red Sox.
Right. And I'm not disputing that. He would be ahead of Blaze Jordan. I'm not disputing that.
Right.
What I'm saying though is that like if you get down to like, and I don't know how BA like, so BA has their 10th guy as a 50 high. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's the same as Groom. Like it's hard to say because they don't
50 high is like a 55 extreme or very high.
They don't go far enough out. But what I'm saying is that like I just think that like the depth is where it's what's separating the Red Sox. And I think I think this is where we disagree. I think you think the Red Sox system has more depth than I do. And I think they have,
that's fine.
And I think that's the disagreement. I think I'm not as far over as Law is on it's that bad where it's like a not top 20 system.
Well, that's what I'm arguing against. Yeah. I think 20
I'm just light. Playing the devil. I think that is light. I agree with that, but I'm saying that I don't think it's a top 10 system either.
Oh, and I'm not arguing they are. Baseball America's got them 11th.
Yeah, I think that they're. I would have them like I would say probably somewhere in between those two is the accurate. But I just think the thing for me is that's what my only point was. I was trying to argue that I was just pointing out that like his logic, which I'm guessing is that second tier or third tier of the Red Sox guys has bigger questions and is not as deep as other systems. That's why he's dating them. That's all I was trying to say.
He's got 4 guys in his top 100, and he's got 2 guys that are in the just missed list. That to me is a very strong top. And I don't know that I'm moving a system that's got that many guys. Like, the Cubs have a lot of guys just outside the top 100, but like, I'm curious, how many does he think it is to make up for the fact that the Red Sox have 6 among those 2 lists?
No, I know. And that's fair, but I'm just saying that I'm guessing is his logic because like, and this is when I look at that group, I just see a lot of relievers and I see a lot of like, there's just not that much upside for me in the Red Sox system from like 10 to like 25. It's a lot of safe players. And
I guess. And but to me, like Blaze has huge upside. Walter's got upside. I mean, depending on if you count Song or not.
Blaze isn't in 10 though. I was saying from like 10 to 20.
You said 10 to 25. Yeah. That includes Blaze.
Blaze is 7.
Oh, Miguel Blaze.
Oh, I thought you said Blaze. Well, you said Blaze. Like, who am I supposed to Blaze?
I mean, it sounds like Blaze.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. That's funny as hell.
No. Yes.
Like,
yes.
What are you talking about?
Well, you said Blaze. Awesome. Like, I'm going to assume it's Blaze Jordan.
The pronunciation is very close. But that's what I'm saying is like, I disagree that they're got like,
I'm not saying there's none. I'm not saying there's none, but if you go from like 10 to 20, like the only guys that I think have like a first division ceiling, and this is like, if you really are dreaming on it, is Gonzalez and Blaze.
But like, how many teams have guys in that range that have first division ceilings? That's what I'm saying. I think you're expecting.
Well, no, but that's what I'm saying. Like, if I'm looking at the Cubs system, Alexander Canario, if like you can dream on him being like a stud, like a power hitting, like low average guy, like Pete Crow Armstrong, you can dream on being Jackie Bradley, like things like that. Like those guys are in the 10. Like that's all I'm saying is like that. It depends on. Like
in 2016,
has Law released his Cubs list? Actually, I'm interested to compare it now.
I don't think he's listed any. He hasn't released any lists. He releases them all at once. Remember?
No, he didn't. He does them by division. He started.
Oh, he does them by division now.
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
He used to do the AL and then the NL.
No, he's been doing it by division. He has he's put out like 4 of the divisions. I'm just curious. I want to look at the Cubs one.
Well, so here's when the Red Sox had the top farm system in baseball. What is that, like 2015 or 16? Okay.
Yeah.
The Red Sox, in July of 2015, when the top of the farm system, which keep in mind, the top of the farm system was for us, July 1, 2015. It was Eduardo Rodriguez, Moncada, Devers, Margot, Brian Johnson, Henry Owens, Andrew Benintendi, Michael Kopech, Javi Guerra, Devin Marrero was the top 10. Okay. Pretty stacked system. 11 to 20 was Anderson Espinoza, who became a stud, but I think at that point, maybe a shade better than what we have in Wickelman Gonzalez right now.
Yeah.
Because he had
At the time, Anderson Espinosa was more highly regarded than Wilkins Gonzalez, both coming out of just pitching like half a season in low A.
No. In 2015, he was just starting to pitch in the Gulf Coast League.
Had he not reached Greenville yet? That wasn't that year. Oh, okay.
That was the year he got one start, because at the end of the year he was third.
Yeah, because the year he reached Greenville,
the year he
was okay.
He entered the season outside of the top 20. So in July, he'd made a couple starts in the Gulf Coast League. Okay. Trey Ball, 12. At that point, he's a couple years out and hasn't done anything. Michael Chavis, 13. He's a former first-round pick, but he's been terrible in Greenville. Pat Light, 14. Sam Travis, 15. Travis Shaw, 16. Ty Buttrey, 17. Ty Buttrey's comparable to like Chris Murphy in that it's like maybe a reliever.
Well, no, but in
Dubon at 18 is a future utility guy.
But in 2015, I don't think Ty Buttrey was seen as that. Wasn't he still starting at that point?
In 2015, let's see. In 2015, yeah, he was still starting, but we weren't big on him. In 2015, he was in his second year at Greenville, and then he went up to say he
Didn't he shove that year though?
He spent a month at Greenville, and then he went up to Salem and was not good. 4.20 ERA, 81 strikeouts.
Oh, that was his last year as a starter. Yeah, that was his last year as a starter.
That was his last year as a starter. He wasn't great there. So that's why I'm saying, like, Mauricio Dubon at 18, we never thought of as more than a utility guy. Teddy Stankiewicz at 19. Like, and that's the year I think that they were the number one farm system in baseball. And that was mid-year.
Yeah.
Like,
but I think the difference
is maybe
they had 3 of the top 5 prospects though, or something.
Was that the offseason they traded Moncada? No, that was 2016. Okay, let's look at 16. Okay, so 2016 was they went into the year with Moncada, Benintendi, Devers, Groom, Kopech.
Yeah, they had like 3 of the top 10 prospects in all of baseball, and
11 to 20 that year. 11 to 20 that year. Luis Isla was 18th on our list. Trey Ball was still 17. Ronio Raudes was 16. Josh Ockamy was 13. CJ Chatham was 12. Like,
yeah, I mean,
it's deeper than this system. I'm not disagreeing. Like, CJ Chatham of 2016, when he had just been drafted.
Yeah,
right?
He was a first round pick.
He was a first round pick. Like, that CJ Chatham is a top 10 prospect in the system. No question.
For sure. Yeah.
But like the Trey Ball of at the end of 2016.
Well, that was after his first pro season, though, wasn't it?
No, he got drafted in 2013. The Trey Ball of 2016.
Oh,
yeah, the Trey Ball of 2016 had been in Salem all year, repeating the level and not been good. And he went to the Arizona Fall League to work out of the bullpen.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think Trey Ball of 2016, I wouldn't put him above Brandon Walter, who's 17. I think this system is maybe not. Ronio Raudes of 2016 had just pitched in Greenville and been good. I don't know that I put Ronio Raudes of 2016 ahead of Brandon Walter. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't agree that part of the system is as bad as you think it is.
I don't think.
That's
I mean, no,
but
I don't. I'm not saying it's bad. I just don't think there's a lot of upside there. Like, I don't think that's. But I don't think that's controversial. Like, there's like 9 college guys in that list. Like,
right. Well, but I mean,
I like Brandon Walter a lot. I have him higher than we do. He's 25 and never pitched in the high minors. Like, that's like there's red flags
because
there.
Of COVID.
I understand that, but I'm saying that you can't discount the fact that he's going to be a 25-year-old who's never pitched in the high minors, and he's going to be 26 by the time I think the season starts.
And that's why we have Thad Ward as low as we do, because he's going to be coming back from Tommy John at 26.
Right, the same thing. Like, but they have in that group though, it's like Connor Wong 25, like Chris Murphy's going to be 24, Winkowski's going to be 24, Seabolt's 26, like Thad Ward's going to be 26. Like, it's a bunch of like guys in there like who are still prospects, but like it's because something went wrong this year, or the flip side is they were behind the age curve developmentally and were really good and are still behind the age curve though.
I mean, I don't agree that Winkowski's behind the age curve.
No, I'm not saying him. I'm not necessarily him, but I'm talking about like, what's his name? Brandon Walter.
Walter is behind the age curve. Seabold's in AAA. I disagree. He's behind an age curve.
Well, no. What I said was that he had like a bad year in the high minors this year. And what I'm saying is development like didn't really happen this year for him is what I was saying.
But you said behind the age curve. The only one I think is the 2 that I would say are potentially behind or are behind the age curve is Walter, who definitely is, and Ward now that he had Tommy
Song,
John.
Like,
well,
Song, obviously.
Song, okay,
yeah,
fair.
But that's 3 out of 10 right there. Like, And
right,
Seabold,
but Song, if he's hold on, here's the thing.
Seabold, I would argue is too, because Seabold is going to be 27 this year. I didn't realize this, by the way. Seabold turns 20. Oh no, he just turned 26. Sorry.
Yeah, no.
So he's pitching all year at 26. Like,
but he made the majors this past year. How is he behind the age curve?
In the sense that I guess behind the age curve isn't the right terminology. My point is that he should have, if things went right, he would have established himself as an MLB option this year. Whereas now there's like, I don't see any path for him.
Yeah.
Like,
guys had bad years, no question. I mean, Jeter Downs had a bad year.
Yeah.
No, and I think there's a lot of variation, and I think part of that is because of 2020 being a lost season. It's very hard to take 2021 at face value.
100%. Because I really struggle with this is like how much you read into 2021 stats because of we don't know what happened in 2020. Yes.
Because on the one hand, right, Jimenez, awful year. If he had been bad in 2020, I don't even know if he's a top 20 prospect, and that's what he is on the BA list that Alex does.
Right.
But by the same token, is Ceddanne Rafaela with what he did defensively and how he was okay at the plate higher. Because that's a breakout. Brandon Walter, who knows what he would have done in 2020 at an age appropriate level. If there's a 2020.
Yeah, like if there's a 2020 season, is Brandon Walter pushing AA to start last season, for example?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, yeah, exactly.
And then if that's the case, then I would be completely different because he would be a top 10 prospect.
No question. I agree with you 100%.
Because he would be on the verge of the big leagues as probably like there would be a debate who's the best left-handed pitching prospect in the system, probably. Like if his breakout happened in 2020 and then he had a normal 2021.
You know who I'm curious about going down the list if there's a 2020? Cutter Crawford.
Yeah.
Does he come back? Well, I guess he would have only come back at the end of 2020, right? But does he like start 2021 in Worcester?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and is he an option sooner? Does he get one of the Houck starts?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so it's interesting. And you could play what if with a lot of these guys. So we'll see what happens. I completely get your point. I want to make clear, I'm not discounting your perspective at all. I think it's rare that we get to have those kind of discussions where we're not in lockstep agreement. And so I completely get your point. And I think that's why you have Keith Law with them at 20 and BA with them at 11. Right. It's how much.
Well, and that is the thing is like,
and how much what you think about the other guys.
And I do think also that the way they rank those guys, and I think this needs to be said in both BA, Keith Law, like anyone who does these lists, they're not seeing the guys as much as we are. Oh, they're relying on their contacts. And I know this because I'm talking to a lot of the same people they are. Well, okay, I know this for a fact. But like we're talking we're talking to different people also, but there's definitely crossover. You can find two scouts who watch the exact same game and get a completely different opinion of a player. Happens all the time. And like, that's the thing that like, let's Keith Law, like, I don't know if he's ever seen, like, I'm just going to pick someone random. Like I doubt he's ever seen Wilkelman Gonzalez pitch. Like, or he maybe has, I don't know, but just take him for example.
What level is Wilmington at this point?
Low A, I think, isn't it? I don't know. But my point is just that like, it doesn't matter who the player is, that if Keith Law finds one person who's seen Wilkelman Gonzalez and they saw him excellent and they put on like a starter grade on, which I know scouts who have done that, they put like a number 3 starter grade on him. He's going to have him a lot higher than if you talk to the guy who saw him and put a middle relief grade on it. So a lot of it, when you're not out seeing the guys, and obviously like they have to cover 30 systems, it's a completely different, description or job description or, process than what we have to do, where we only have to focus on one system. That you're going to be skewed by that because that's all you know. And like, that's the thing that I think that I sometimes forget when I'm looking at these lists and I'm like, that makes no sense. Like they've clearly never seen them. It's like, oh yeah, they probably haven't but just like I haven't seen, every other player that they talk about outside of the Red Sox system for the most part.
We've never seen Luis Perales. If we see him this year in Salem, if he makes Salem mid-year and we see him and he's pumping 95 in the 5th, he's going to be a lot higher than he is right now.
Right. And that's the thing you need that you need to remember is that like, if you're not going out and seeing them and obviously with what they do and credit to them, I couldn't do it. I couldn't cover, 30 systems. I have enough trouble keeping track of one. I couldn't imagine having to keep track of 30, but it shows the depth of the contacts and, within the industry that they built up that they can, they can somewhat, put out a comprehensive list like the way they do, but it's all going to be skewed by who you're talking to when you're not seeing them in person.
100%.
And that can vary greatly. And that's how you can end up with. And I think that's the thing with the Red Sox system, is that they have a lot of high variance guys. Like they have guys that Gonzalez, like example, Brandon Walter, like certain guys that if you saw someone, and Brandon Walter's a good example, you talk to someone who saw Walter out of the bullpen, they're like, whatever, bullpen guy. If you talk to someone who saw him at the end of the season as a starter, it's like a completely different report. Same thing with guys like Winkowski, Chris Murphy. Like those guys have wide outcomes, and a lot of it's going to depend on the source you're talking to and how that person saw them. And that's going to influence those rankings a lot.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Exactly. No, I think that was a really good discussion. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. Let's go on to emails. podcast@soxprospects.com. We're going to get through as many of these as possible. If any of these have longer questions, I think we're going to punt on them just because we went so long on that, so much longer than we thought we would. First question's from John B. He says, "Hey guys, what did you think about Tristan Casas saying in recent interviews that his weight is up to 265? I know he's 6'5", and I know it's good if he's gaining muscle, but that sounds like a lot, particularly when your report cautions that he will will have to work to maintain body and athleticism. By comparison, Freddie Freeman is 6'5", and listed at 220. Bobby Dahlbeck is only 1 inch shorter, and he's listed at 227. John B. Fair question, John, but I don't know about you. Having seen him in photos from the winter warm-up, I have no concerns about Casas at that weight. He's just a huge dude.
It's hard to say without seeing him. Like we'll report back when we see him at spring training, because like
hopefully we see him at spring training.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. Or if not, once the season starts, when I go to Worcester. Like it's hard to say without seeing how he's carrying the weight, if he actually is that much. Like, is that an off-season thing?
He's saying that. I mean, he's the one saying it, but having seen him, like he's posted videos on his IG of him working out.
Yeah.
So I'm not concerned about it, but thanks for the question.
No,
John.
It's a fair question. And yeah. I'm punting because I'd like to see him at that. If he's truly that weight, see what it looks like.
Yep. Next question comes from Will, who says, "Hi guys, no question, but just to follow up on your response about if Casas not slugging 500 is concerned. First off, Jeff Bagwell only hit 4 homers in 200 plus minor league games before being traded for 20 innings from a guy named Larry. Rest in peace, Rock Cats. Second, I had the same question a while back on what his total season stats were, after I was sure a certain Red Sox reporter had his math wrong on Twitter, and it was wrong. I did this right after the fall league was done. I'm including a screenshot. You don't have to open a file. But he has numbers on him. He was 297, 411, 495 in 117 games. Great. The thing is with Bagwell, like, look, power is the last thing to actualize. Casas has pop. We talked about it last time. I mean, thanks for the email. I'm worried. The hit tool is the question. He's going to hit for power if he hits, period. Really, I don't have questions about him not hitting. Next email is from Joey. He says, "Hello, Sox Prospects crew. I had a few questions about everyone's favorite reliever, Garrett Whitlock. First, if they try and stretch him out as a starter, does that have a realistic chance of working? Is it irrational for me to worry that he will get Daniel Barded out by the process? Excuse me. What is his realistic floor ceiling as a starter? I love his 3 pitches, but would they all play down in a starter's role? And lastly, what do you think they should do? Should they give him some run as a starter or leave him in the pen? If it ain't broke, then don't fix it." Ian, I guess quickly, we don't know what they'll look like as a starter.
Yeah,
and I think that's why you look at it.
Yeah. I think Daniel Bard is. I don't think that's a fair comparison, because we've seen people convert from pitching and relief in their first year to being a starter, and it's been successful too. So I do think that Red Sox fans are skewed by the Daniel Bard experience, and that's not the norm. I would say, I think that's more of an outlier.
And Bard was already screwed up as a reliever, and again, go look at what he did.
Do you remember his early career stats? He couldn't throw strikes for the first couple of seasons.
In the minors, yeah.
In the minors, yeah. This wasn't it wasn't
out of nowhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Thank you. That was what I was trying to say.
Yeah, it wasn't out of nowhere, and he was a success as a reliever. But he was already struggling as a reliever the season before they tried to make him a starter.
Yeah.
Making him a starter didn't break him. It might have made things worse, but it didn't break him.
And Rio Whitlock, the biggest thing for me as a starter is, can he consistently get lefties out? We saw he had pretty significant platoon splits last year. Lefties hit him pretty well. I think he does have 3 pitches, and I think that he would have to obviously rely on throwing all of his pitches more than he did out of the bullpen. But I think it's worth a shot because he's got the build, like the stuff is there, and it's just a matter of, how does he take to the to longer outings, and how does the stuff hold up over, 3, 4, 5 innings.
And if I can make one more point, we don't know if it ain't broke. He hasn't spent a season as a real reliever. They were handling him with kid gloves for half or more of the season.
I mean, but he still threw 73 innings.
He did, but he also threw 73 innings, a lot of them early on in low leverage, and he was getting like 3 days between appearances every time.
I mean, he only pitched in 46 games last year, which as a reliever is not very many.
And so look, you want to stretch him out anyway, so you might as well stretch him out and see how it looks as a starter. And if it doesn't look good, then cool, throw him back in the bullpen. I don't think you're going to break him by stretching him out. Our next question comes from Will. He says, I'm wondering if you guys see any lessons learned from someone like Cole Brannon. Not to pick on the guy, but he's about to wash out and was a second-round pick. Looking at your scouting report, it seems that he had limited upside all along, bad drafting, bad luck, bad development. I know most prospects don't work out, but this is one of those guys that comes off as, quote, what were they thinking, end quote, while someone like Cameron Cannon also seems to not be panning out, but at least get the high floor appeal of that pick. First of all, I want to make the point, a guy's present scouting report is, if it's been updated, what we think of him now, and his has. Yeah,
both of those have been.
Yeah,
because I saw both of them this year.
That's not his scouting report from when he got drafted, to be very clear.
No. Because both those guys I saw this year with Greenville, and Portland, so those have been updated.
Right. And the point I want to make, look, I don't think there's a lesson to be learned. Draft. No,
I think you and I. Well, we did have quite the debate about Cole Brannon after his first. His first spring training, where I was very out immediately.
Well, okay, but what I mean by that, and I don't disagree with that point. My point is, the lesson learned is to draft better.
No, I think, but this was my problem at the time was I didn't like the profile of player he was. I had a fundamental issue with taking like a 5'10" out. But this is the flip side, and thinking about it, I've done some thinking about it. It's like Andrew Benintendi is built similarly, and Benintendi worked out fine.
Yep.
So it's like it's not a one size fits all, but I think part of it was skewed because I saw him in spring training and didn't think he was good at all. And that was my first impression of him. Here's why we don't know if there's
lessons learned. We don't know we talked with Paul Taboni about process. No. We talked with Paul Taboni about process. No. We talked with Paul Taboni about process. We don't know what their process was on Cole Brannon. How many guys saw him, what guys wrote him up as, what the rest of their board looked like. The only way you know the lessons learned is if you know that information.
Fair.
That's the thing.
Yeah, because our experience with him was I saw him at Instructs barely, I think, that year, and then we saw him in spring training, and
we were very out. Yeah,
we were not impressed at all. Yeah.
So that's why we don't know what the lessons learned are.
Yeah.
Next quick question. We answered, Ethan Berry asked us if you were to bet on a prospect outside of the top 20 to jump in the top 5 or 10 or the top 30 to jump in the top 20, who would it be? We answered that on a previous episode of the podcast. So Ethan, why don't you check out?
We did.
It was, I remember we picked guys who might jump up, and we talked about Lira. We talked about,
sure. I'm trusting you.
It was one of the last 2 episodes. We definitely got.
I don't remember. Question. It's been a long couple of months.
And then our last email has to do with the CBA stuff, which is part of why I wanted to get to it. He says, "Hello, guys." It's our buddy Madog 561 who says, "Hello, guys. Since it's looking like major league players and owners can't agree on a new CBA, is there any way for teams to use players not on the 40 like replacement players, like the NFL did for the 1987 season? No, they can't do that because it's a lockout." You can't, it's a labor thing. Like they would get the pantsuit off of them by the players. If they locked them out, if they locked them out and used scabs, like
it won't happen.
You can use scabs during a strike because the players are refusing to play.
Yeah.
You can't use scabs during a lockout. So they would have to end the lockout and let the players play under the new CBA. And then if the players walked out, then they could use scabs. So that's not going to happen. But thanks for the emails, everyone. Again, it's podcast@soxprospects.com. Hit us up with your emails, thoughts, questions, concerns, what you want to hear us talk about. And we'll get to them on the next episode. And that's going to wrap it up. Ian, for everyone, thank you for listening. You can find us on Twitter. Follow the website @SoxProspects, as well as the Instagram, where we're running down our SP60 season opening countdown of our top 60 prospects. Shout out to Ed Hand, our social media guy, and Brian Lombardo, our new graphics guy, for creating some great stuff for that countdown. Thank you to both of them. And thank you to Kelly O'Connor and the rest of the folks we're getting photos from.
It's also on Twitter too. Ed's doing a great job on there of putting
both
the stuff
Twitter
up
and
too.
Instagram. Yep. The Greenville Drive and Salem Red Sox
and
also sent some great photos recently.
We should also mention that those guys all have up-to-date reports as of like this past week or whatever.
Yeah, and I'm about to update some more tomorrow morning.
So if you see one with a countdown, it's an up-to-date report as of this offseason.
Yep, exactly. Good call, Ian. Follow Ian on Twitter at Ian Cundall. That's IANCUNDALL, and follow me at SP Chris Hatfield. And then thanks to all of our $5 level Patreon supporters. That's Kyle C., Tyler Woodrow, Jeff Trainer, David Nardone, Tim Harding, Bill Stanton, Deb Kendall, Evan Kirkwood, Hurricanes 1, Chris Fox, James O'Hara, Nathan Kenyon, Andrew Wallen, David B., Ben Burnett, Al Mendel, Kevin Catrides, Ben NRI, Paul Denyard, Lendl Martin, Cassandra Gupta, James B. McMahon, Stephen Gregory, James Bailey, Andreas Goldstrand, Corey Perrick, Forrest Perkins, Mark Herman, Aaron Meta, Jeff Harwood, Jimmy Mountain, Brian Cowan, Dusty G., Pavel, Jordan Shabbat, Jeffrey Scruggs, Nicholas Staropoli, Bob Introne, Mike Kawano, Chris Bollier, Curtis Waltman, Michael Stewart, Keith Fox, Caleb Farron, John Kane, Andrew K., Tim Ware, Michael Murphy, and Kyle Sanborn. Thank you all for your support. Thank you all for listening. I'll be back in your eardrums soon, hopefully with some good news on the labor stuff. I want some baseball. Hopefully with some good news on spring training. I need to get down there, Ian. Thank you all for listening. Hope you all enjoyed the show. We'll be back in your eardrums soon.